Ooh. Well, hello, everybody. What's up? What's up? What's up? Let me hear you in the comments. Shouts out who's here. I got mad respect for the people that wait. They come on and wait. Like, I got mad respect for y'all because y'all like anticipating, and it makes me feel loved. It makes me feel great. I love seeing that. We always, anytime we hop on, always got people waiting. So a couple updates. What up, Amaya? Couple updates on just my life because I know you're so curious about it. Uh, so I got a completely random like package in the mail for my birthday, and I opened it up, and it was from an anonymous person who labeled it as DC Youth. Which, yeah, by the way, shouts out Caleb. Got my H Town gear on right now. I'm fully H Towned out right now. Like, my socks are even H Town right now. Like, oh man, that's gonna be the like freeze frame that everybody's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna put that there. Everybody's gonna put that on Instagram. Is the freeze frame of me just ate. Actually, I'm okay with that. All right. So actually, if you want to go ahead and do the freeze frame, I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to get out your phone. 1, 2, 3. That's my H Town. All right. Anyway, so I got this random package in the mail, and it was from a completely random. It was from like an anonymous person that said it's from DCU. So I don't know who you are that gave me this, but I love the shirt. It says, "I never dreamed I'd grow up to be the world's greatest youth pastor, but here I am killing it." And the reason I love this shirt so much, one, it just makes me feel good. 2, whoever did it knows the history of a couple of my completely random shirts. I have so many completely random things, but one of my completely random things is this shirt I have that I found at the old church I worked at, the sound booth. I found this in the sound booth, and nobody claimed it, and so I asked if I could have it. And this says, "I never dreamed I grew up to be a super cool crocheting lady, but here I am killing it." And I've had this shirt for a long time, and I love this shirt. So I don't know who gave me the youth pastor one, but I loved the callback and the reference to that shirt. I super loved it. Also, one thing before we get started, I don't know if you've seen a couple of students posting on Instagram and stuff like that about one of our students, Josiah Fogg. If you haven't heard, just keep him and his family in your prayers. They had no idea anything was going to go on, and he ended up had a surgery yesterday. They found a blood clot in his leg. I don't want to go into all the details with everything, but right now he's out of surgery, and it's just going to be, let's just pray for a speedy recovery. We really can't wait to see him, because here's the thing. I need him. Josiah, if you're watching this, which I really hope you are, but if you're not and you're getting your rest, completely understand. Someone let him know I said this. But I really need you to know, I really need you to get a speedy recovery going, because I've been going up to the church probably 2 to 3 times a week, and I have been practicing my basketball moves. And so I realized that you're getting taller, and so I can't just shoot normally over you. I'm going to have to do different ways. And so I've been practicing my basketball. I've been getting better at basketball. All right. And this summer I 100% planned on having just a day where I'm like, hey, if you're trying to get crossed up at the church, come to the church and I'll cross you up. And I knew you and Caleb were going to go, Josiah. And so y'all were the two that I was one, or two of all of them, but y'all were one of the two. You were one of the two that I was most excited about crossing up. So Josiah, I'm going to need you to get better as quickly as possible so I can cross you up. All right. So because you're going to have surgery on your ankles after I'm done. So, your mom's not going to be too happy with me, but you wanted the heat, so now you got it. But in all seriousness, keep Josiah and his family and the Fogg family in your prayers, just for a speedy recovery, and that God just sends him peace through everything. But I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into this sermon. I'm excited about this new series that we're starting. It's entitled FOMO. If you don't know what FOMO means, it means fear of missing out. That's what FOMO stands for. And I feel like if you don't know what FOMO, if you knew what FOMO was, everybody like has experienced FOMO. And if you don't know what it is, it's just whenever something's going on and you're not a part of it. Like if you get like, man, I really wish I could be a part of that. I don't want to like not do that. And then something cool happened. Like if your friends are hanging out and you can't go hang out, you have that FOMO of like, man, I really wish I could go hang out with them because I feel like something cool is going to happen and then I'm not going to be there for it. Like that's one of my favorite things about lock-ins that we do is that there are two types of people in lock-ins. One, there's going to be the people that can make it through the night. And then the other type of people just can't hang. And that's just what happens. They just can't hang. You know, they're going to go to sleep. But in the group of people that just can't hang, you can split them even into further groups, two more groups. One group is a group that just is like, they know they can't hang. And you know what? I'm going to sleep. My wife, Lexus, is one of those. You know what? I'm going to sleep. I don't care to stay up. I'm tired. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to sleep. Like I've made it this long. But then also the people that know they can't make it, there's another group that is the FOMO people. And those are the people that like, if we're all playing cards in like a room or something like that, those are the people that are sleeping on the side of the room, like still wanting to be around everybody just in case anything crazy happens. They're still there, but they also need their sleep. They got FOMO. They don't want to miss out on anything. You know, how many people are that? I'm a type that I'm gonna stay up all night, but I love seeing the kids that have FOMO that are so afraid of missing something like super cool that they just sleep in this loud, obnoxious room with everybody. Because once you get like in a lock-in, once you get to like 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, that's whenever like the like weird laughs start coming out, the tired laughs, the tired jokes, all those start coming out at around that time. And so if you're really just trying to stay in there for that, like that, you got a big fear of missing out. You got big FOMO. But with everything going on right now, and like even though life has like kind of like slowed down a little bit, life in general is still busy. Like I know a lot of people that they still like through all this, they still seem like crazy busy, and like they're just constantly moving, and so it's hard to pause and wait when that's happening. And so even during this time, you know, we've been waiting, and it's kind of like, all right, when is this gonna be over? You know, all right, when is this gonna be done? Like when, all right, God, you know what? All right, Corona, it's time to wrap it up. All right, Corona, like your time is done. Time to wrap it up, Corona. Like anybody else feel like that? With everything going on, like it's hard to wait on this to actually finish. Just like in our life in the Christian walk and in our Christian like relationship with Jesus, sometimes if we're real, it's hard to wait on God. I mean, it's hard it's super frustrating sometimes that God just doesn't seem to understand that I have everything figured out, and if he would just pay attention to my plan, then this would go out smoothly. But I mean, I guess I'm not always right, and okay, I guess he's always right. But still, like if he would listen to my, like how many of us have felt like that? I know I have. I know there's been tons of times that happen. I mean, I know there are juniors, seniors, kids that are graduating right now, kids that have already graduated, that they're looking at God and they're going to God and telling him, like, look, if you would just tell me what my future is now, then I wouldn't have to miss the opportunity at all to start working towards that sooner. Like people, even going younger and younger, if you go to junior high, freshman, like sophomores, like there are students still there that are like, God, if you could just tell me right now, like what your plan is, then I can start working towards that. It'll be perfect. So go ahead, like you can go and let me know. You don't have to miss an opportunity or anything like that. But we have to realize sometimes that God's timing is always perfect. Scripture repeatedly shows us that God's plan is always better than ours. I can 100% attest to that God's plan is always better than ours. But a scripture reference I want to talk to you about, and the kind of story that we're going to be reading from tonight is going to be found in Exodus 32. And I want to give you some kind of backstory to that. So basically, in Exodus the book of Exodus is all about the Israelites leaving under the rule and slavery to Egypt. That God pulls them out of there, you know, with that Moses guy, you know, the plagues that are going on, which, I mean, shoot, we might be getting plagues right now. I don't know if like someone somewhere in America has God's people like in slavery right now, but he needs to go ahead and let them go, because after this coronavirus, after like all this stuff going on, like now we got murder hornets. Which the other day, Lexus was talking about murder hornets, and she was like, it's a tongue twister, because she kept on going. She was like, now there's murder hermits, and I lost it. Lexus said murder hornets. So now forever they are referenced as murder hornets. Anyway, all those are going on. It seems like we're getting our own plagues. And so in Exodus right now, Moses had just, where we're picking up in Exodus is chapter 32. So Moses had just led the Israelites out of Egyptian slavery, let my people go, all that stuff, parting the Red Sea, like all that stuff just happened. And so now they're wandering in the wilderness, waiting to get to their promised land. And so Moses, as he does frequently, goes up to Mount Sinai, and he goes up to talk to God, because God calls him up there so he can talk to him. And he has this encounter with God. And so while he's up there, he's like, all right, look, I got to go up. I'm going to take my second in command, Joshua. Like, I need you to come up with me also, which Joshua only ends up going halfway. Besides the point. I'm going to need you to go with me. Aaron, you're third in command. I need you to go ahead and take control everything down here. All right, I'm leaving it in your hands. And so he goes up, and he ends up going up for 40 days. All right, 40 days, 40 nights. And that's key, because of this, what I'm about to read. Like, you need to realize it was only for like a little over a month that he was up there. All right, so we're picking up in verse 1 of Exodus 32. It says, when the people saw how long it was taking Moses to come back down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron. So these people got impatient after waiting not even 40 days, like just about 40 days. It's like, this is, I think, like around 37, 38, 39, somewhere in there. So they go to Aaron. So they gathered around Aaron. They say, come on, make us some gods who can lead us. We don't know what happened to this fellow Moses. I like the way that this translation says that, not like, we don't know what happened to Moses. We don't know what happened to this fellow Moses who brought us here from the land of Egypt. So Aaron said to them, all right, take the gold rings from the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. So Aaron starts giving them the worst advice, and it goes down like he ends up saying all the people got the gold rings from the ears and brought them to Aaron. Then Aaron took the gold, melted it down, and molded it into a shape of a calf. When the people saw it, they exclaimed, "Oh, Israel, these are the gods who brought you out of the land of Egypt." And so now they start worshiping this golden calf that Aaron made. And so then Aaron saw how excited the people were, so he built an altar in front of the calf. Then he announced, tomorrow will be a festival to the Lord, not to Lord God, now to the Lord calf. Now to the Lord calf. So Aaron realized that the people are loving this. Let's make a party out of this. So they got up early the next morning to sacrifice burnt offerings and peace offerings. After this, they celebrated with feasting and drinking, and they indulged in pagan revelry. So basically, in less than 40 days, as Moses, their leader, is going to talk to God, like as he's going to get a word from God, they got anxious. They got fearful of he's not coming back. What's going on? We don't know. Might as well build this calf. Like, who jumps to those conclusions? Jumping all over the place. And so now Moses is talking to God, and he's done talking to God. And so he's coming down, and on his way down, God lets him know that the people had corrupted themselves. So in Moses' absence, they had abandoned all the expectations of God because their fear of Moses wouldn't return. And so this man named John Hannah puts it a lot like this, and I love the way he worded it. Says, the people became fearful because of Moses' delay, because he's on the mountain for 40 days. So they went to Aaron, their temporary leader, assuming that Moses would not return to guide and comfort them, because they didn't know what happened to him. They asked for a substitute or surrogate who will go before us. In suggesting that, Aaron made them gods. They were not gods, and they were not asking for gods to replace God, like Yahweh, their God, but for a visible, tangible object to follow, because they were tired of following a God that they couldn't see. They wanted to follow a God that they could look at and put like a structure on it. That's not the right word, but they could put something on it so they could look at that. And so, I mean, honestly, it's a lot of something that we go through. I mean, I talk to a lot of people that They have a really hard time trusting a God that they can't see. And I mean, that's just, I think it's one of the beauties of Christianity, that we don't have to see him to see him. Because the more you're like, the deeper you dive into this, the more you see him without actually seeing him. And you see it in like the way he works and different things he does, and the way just different things he does in your life, and the way he works in life. That's where you see him. They weren't waiting for that to happen. They weren't allowing God the time he needed to be able to show himself to them. Which, timeout, they couldn't see God, but they saw God part the Red Sea. Like, what more of a like, okay, this is obviously a real God. Like this God obviously wants the best for me. I got your back, man. I mean, he literally, like, a sea just, and then it was dry when they walked. And now these people, I just can't deal with them. All right. So anyway, so basically what they were doing, and the reason this was so kind of really bad for them to worship this calf is because God pulled them out of Egypt, and he pulled them out of slavery, but they were going back to their behavior in Egypt before God intervened for them and pulled them out. And so they were in slavery. God pulled them out of slavery, and now they're in the wilderness. And this whole part, for 40 years, they were in the wilderness before they finally reached the promised land that they were supposed to. And so the reason God couldn't just go from boom out of slavery, boom to boom, bam, anyway, pull them out of slavery into their promised land is because God had to get the habits of slavery out of them. And so he pulled them out of slavery, but he had to pull the slavery out of them. And so that's what this whole time is, and them wandering in the wilderness, of them not knowing what's going on. It's God getting their customs and getting their habits out of what it was when they were in slavery. Like, they don't have to live in that bondage anymore. Now they're with a God who wants the best for them and wants to provide the best for them and is going to provide the best for them. And so now that God's trying to pull that slavery out of them. So now we pick up back in the story, and Moses is coming down from Mount Sinai, and he's got 2 tablets with him, which are like, the 2 tablets he's carrying they were written by God. Like, the Bible literally says that God's finger wrote the words on these tablets. So these are super special. So I'm sure he's carrying these tablets down, like, which these are stone tablets. I don't mean like, tablet. I mean like a stone tablet. But sorry, I couldn't avoid that joke. I actually have it written in my notes. I just couldn't avoid that joke. Anyway, so he brings these tablets down, these stone tablets down that are written by God himself. And so now not only have these people made a golden calf in replace of God, now they're also dancing and singing and relishing it and worshiping this thing. And Moses walks down with these 2 tablets. But they did all this because they didn't think Moses was coming back. So now Moses is walking down with these 2 tablets in his hand. And I'm sure, like, when he got to the base with it, like the base of the mountain, they could see him. Can you imagine, like, the most awkward, like, encounter of all time? Like, this is how I pictured in my head, like, him just walking down, and, like, the music's all going, and they're all, like, dancing around. Everybody's laughing. And then you hear, like, a record scratch, basically, just like, or like they had, like, weird, like, I guess the drum would be like, and like, there's always that one guy, like, I'm sure Aaron was that one guy that was just like dancing, and then he's like, what, guys, why does everybody stop? Oh, and then everybody like locks eyes with Moses and sees just like the rage in his eyes, like just furious, like, are you kidding me? And so Moses like looking at the people, then he looks at the calf, then he looks at the people, then he looks at Aaron, and Aaron looks at him, and then Moses looks at the calf, and Aaron looks at the calf. And they look back at each other, and it's just this awkward, super awkward moment where you could just feel the tensions going on. And so eventually it made Moses so mad that these tablets that I'm sure whenever he was walking down the mountain, like, he was like trying really hard not to break. Like, these are stones written like by God's finger. Like, the words on it were written by God's finger. And so he's just like slowly walking down these mountains. Well, when he gets to the bottom of this, he's furious, sees this awkward encounter, and everybody sees how furious he is. He ends up breaking the 2 stone tablets. Like, he throws them down in his anger because Moses is ticked off. And so he ends up actually taking the golden calf, melting it down, and then pouring it in their water for them to drink. Like, he goes hardcore off of this. No, they don't like die from that, but like it's just crazy. Like he was like, all right, you want this so bad, drink it. Like he was pissed. So Moses then goes to question Aaron. Like he was the man in charge. Like you should have. Why'd you ever let this happen? And so Aaron, I relate to a lot. Not to this point. I'm not saying that's like that. Like, oh yeah, Aaron, I would totally do the same thing. But if I were to do that, and if I were in that situation, how Aaron responds to this is, I think, a lot of how we respond. Aaron tries to like get rid of, like he tries to take every single blame off of him, and like it's not me, it's them. And so he picks up in verse 22. And Moses is like, what are you doing, Aaron? Like, how could you let this happen? And so it says, don't get upset, my Lord. Aaron replied, time out. Aaron, you're not slick. Like, I see what you're doing with the my Lord. Like, don't get upset, my Lord. Like, okay, yeah, we know you got your tail between your legs and you were just like, don't get upset, my Lord. Like, we see what you're doing. You're not slick, all right? And so it goes on, and he goes on to completely blame the people as if he tried to stop them and they overpowered him. He says, you yourself know how evil these people are. Like he's talking to Moses, like, look, it's them. You yourself know how evil these people are, dude. They're terrible. So they said to me, this is Aaron talking, they said to me, make us a God who will lead us. We don't know what happened to this fellow Moses. See, there it is again, this fellow Moses. We don't know what happened to this fellow Moses who brought us here from the land of Egypt. So I told them, whoever has gold jewelry, take it off. And when they brought it to me, I simply threw it in the fire, and out came this calf. This man, really, his big excuse is like, look, you know they're terrible people. But they wanted a God, and so I was like, all right, bring me your gold. And I threw it in the fire, and poof, out popped this calf. Like, how ridiculous does that sound? Like, the calf just came out of the fire, like it just rolled on out. Like, how ridiculous does that sound? But how many of us do that? Like we feel like we're in trouble. We know we shouldn't have done something. So we make up whatever excuse we can. The first excuse that comes to our head, we're saying, and we hope it makes sense. And a lot of times, even if it doesn't make sense, we're saying it because maybe they'll believe it. Like we're so focused on getting the blame off of us and avoiding all the punishment that it's so important to us more than anything that no matter how ridiculous the excuse is, we're going to say it because it seems like a solid excuse. I remember I told this story a couple weeks ago on our IG Live before this, but whenever I was a little kid, I was the worst. I was the worst liar. Like I was always a good kid. Me and Lexus always joked that she was a good kid to her parents, but she was like the little kid that would like growl at the ushers and like the people like that. But I was like a sweet and angel child of a kid. And so when we have kids, if we have an amazing kid, it's all because I was an amazing kid. That's a lie. Anyway, so I also like was the worst at lying. And so one of the things I love to do is I loved Oreos, which is funny because I'm lactose intolerant. Anyway, I still to this day love Oreos. I just have to take my pills. Anyway, so I loved Oreos, but because if I ate the whole cookie because I was lactose intolerant, it would make me feel like really icky. Like I didn't like, when I was a kid, I didn't know like how to describe that. And so like I didn't like the way it made me feel, but all I knew is the cream on the inside is the best part of the Oreo. Like that it's the best part. If you eat an Oreo by itself, the cream on the inside is the best part of the Oreo. And so what I would do is I would take a cookie, open it up, twist it up. You know how you twist it to get like the good, like smooth edge. On the anybody who's open to Oreo, you know what I'm talking about. Like you twist it, and then you gotta like it's like a science, like just you gotta pull it off so it's got that flat top. Well, I was practicing this and doing really good at it, and so I was eating like the icing. Then I didn't want to just like throw the cookie away, and then my mom was gonna be like, "Where are all the cookies at?" And I was like, "Boom! I'll eat the icing, and she won't know I ate cookies. Let me stick it back together and put it back in." So later that night, I did that to like a whole row of Oreos. Later that night, my mom comes to me and she's like, Cody, who ate these Oreos? And I'm like, wasn't me, because I didn't eat the whole Oreo. So it wasn't me, Mom. Wasn't me. She's like, Cody, I see the chocolate on your face, because when I had licked off like some of the chocolate on my edges, and I was still straight denying it. Like, no, Mom, wasn't me. Wasn't me. And she was like, well, then Cody, who did it? And that's whenever she put me on the spot, and I pulled an Aaron, and I was like, we bought it from the store like that. And she was like, what? No, that didn't happen. I was like, yeah, when the people were checking out, like they just, that's how it came. And so, I'm sorry that we got a bad batch, Mom. And she's like, Cody, I know that's a lie. And so I was like, okay. She's not believing this. Let me throw in another one that's going to make more sense. And I was like, well, must have been the aliens. Like, that was my go-to. Like, are you kidding me? It must have been the aliens. And that's exactly what Aaron did. The calf just popped out. But like so many times we do that, and he knew he had to make up some excuse because Aaron realized by how furious Moses was, the severity of what he was doing, of making another idol, because God takes and any other idols before him very seriously. And anything that becomes more important than God's will or God's authority has to be avoided. That's why them making this calf was so huge and like such a big deal, because they were putting that before God. They're worshiping that and loved it more than God. And so God has to be our top priority in everything, and not just like number one. This is one of my like favorite like ways to look at God and how you should prioritize God. Like, God shouldn't just be your number one, but God should be the center of everything. And so not like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like a wheel. And so God's at the center and everything connects to him. God is the priority in your family. God's the priority in your school. God's the priority in your friendships. God's the priority in the people you date. God's the priority in the people you hang out with. Like, God should be the priority in everything. And so he's not just number one, he's the center of your life. And we have to trust him in everything. And putting him in the center of it, you allow him to work in that. And that's amazing. It's 100% what you need to do. But as you're allowing him to work in that, you have to trust him through it. I mean, whether you think it's taking too long or it's not going fast enough, like, you have to trust God through it. And trusting God in the waiting can sometimes be difficult. And as time starts to pass, I mean, it's human of us. We become like the Israelites in this time when we start to try to find other things to fill the void. Like, they felt like they couldn't hear from God, and so they try to find something else to be their God. They try to find something else to fill the void that's in them. And so many times, like, you hear people talk about, they just feel like something's missing in life. Man, I just feel like something's missing. And I promise you, nothing will ever fill that void like a relationship with God will. Nothing is going to ever fill that void like the love of God. Not money, not success, not the relationships you're with, not how many people you date, not how cool like this school thinks you are, not popularity, not drugs. Like, none of that stuff is going to fill the void that you were born with, to have a desire to love God. Every single one of us is born and made with a desire to love God. And so many people mistake that as something is missing in their life, and they see it as something is missing in their life. And instead of trying to fill it with the true source of fulfillment and the true source of joy and true source of happiness, and instead of trying to fill it with God, they fill it with everything else they can. They fill it with everything that the world says that this will make you happy. If you do this, you're going to be happy. If you just follow these orders, and you're going to be successful, and in so you're going to be happy. But none of it's going to bring you the fullness like a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so if you're in a season right now where you feel like you're waiting on God, or you're waiting on an answer from God, I want to encourage you with this. I found this article kind of talking about waiting on God and the process of that, and like kind of things to help keep you through it. And it was written by Jade Mazarin, and it says this. It says, some of the greatest figures in the Bible, Abraham, Joseph, Moses, who we just talked about, David, had to wait many years for God's promises. Everything that happened in the meantime was used to prepare them inwardly as well as outwardly. I'm going to say that again. Everything that happened in the meantime was used to prepare them inwardly as well as outwardly. Then, when they reached their promise, they were blessed beyond measure. And so instead of focusing on the fear of missing, the FOMO of your future, the fear of missing out on your future, the fear of what's coming, and like not knowing and not being assured, but wanting to be a part of it, like that fear that guides us and like pushes us, instead of having that fear of missing out on our future and everything it holds, how about right now you focus on becoming the best you that you can be right now. I mean, even before this whole before everything started at the very beginning of the year, I told you that what I think we need to focus on in 2020 is becoming the best you possible. And I still think that's 100% true in the midst of everything that has been going on and is now coming to an end. Like in the midst of all that, like it's allowed you at time, like you didn't have an excuse not to better your relationship with God. Like now, if you like, I'm gonna step on some toes, and I promise you this is completely out of love. Now, if you had all this time and you didn't get like you didn't use it to get closer to God, it wasn't like life's busyness that is the reason you're not getting closer to God. It's you. You're not putting in an effort. You're not putting the extra step in. And I'm sorry if that offends some people, but it's the truth. It's if you didn't put in this effort right now, like whenever you're busy and like you go back to the regular life of school and like everything gets back to normal, like how are you going to find the time then? It's not that you're not finding the time. It's just you're not putting a priority on it. And so this year has allowed us to focus on ourselves more than anything else. And so whether you're like a sixth grader listening to this, or you're about to graduate this year, like, and beyond, like whatever it is, like I just want to encourage you right now that if you're waiting on God from something, like don't just sit there and be like, all right, well, I'm waiting. So whenever you're ready, God, like whenever you're ready, God, like, no, that's not what you should be doing. What you should be doing is, instead of just waiting and just being like, well, I hope it happens, like start becoming the best self, like the best version of yourself that you can be. I mean, focus on bettering your relationship with God, getting closer to God, focus on starting to do the right things, to choose to do the right things. Like nothing's going to give you more of a sense of fulfillment than finding out who you truly are. And the way you do that is you find out who your best self is, and then you start to strive towards that. And so I just encourage you right now, as you're in this time of waiting, and if you feel like you're just waiting to hear from God, like work on yourself, work on work on y'all's relationship, not what you're going to gain from God, not that he's going to give you some secrets to your life, but that you're just creating a relationship with him. And so I really encourage y'all to do that. I love you guys. If you realize, if I said that ending and you like look at that and you're like, wow, I didn't get close to God any at all, and now everything's kind of coming to an end, so I guess my time's up. Like, no, like 100% start now. Grab some buddies, like grab some friends, pull them together, and like, hey, look, I really need to get better at reading my word, like reading the word. And so I really need to get better at reading the Bible. Will you go through this Bible plan with me? Will you go through this Bible study with me? Like, I promise you'll get some people to do it. And if nobody else will, I will. I'll go through it with you. I'm in like 4 right now, and I got no problem hopping on a 5th to help you with your relationship. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to get closer to God again. Like, oh no, like I'm reading way too many devotions. Like that's not a problem at all. So like reach out to me. I'll hop on one with you. Like I got no problem with that. So I really encourage you to really just become the best self that you can be. All right. Finally, don't forget that still going on every single Monday, we have Zoom calls. Guys, if you're not in the Zoom calls, I promise you are missing out. Like if you don't have FOMO of the Zoom calls, you 100% should have FOMO of the Zoom calls, because you're missing out on just an amazing time to really have a relationship with other people who are believing like you. Like if you're trying to get into a Bible study, all of the small groups that meet on Monday nights are going through a Bible study together. Like they're going to push each other. Like we send reminders out all the time. The junior high boys, I'll get a reminder from like a 6th grader. It's like, hey, don't forget to read today. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got to read today. Like it helps me. And so like everybody needs that reminder to, oh yeah, okay, I need to do that. And that's what these small groups help you do, is give you that reminder. And so please hop onto those. And then the last announcement, and then I'm going to go ahead and we can go ahead. I'll pray it out, is if you are a senior graduating this year, look, we know this year's been completely different for you. And so we want to celebrate you in the midst of all this. We want to still make sure you feel like this is something, like this momentous thing in your life is still something worth celebrating 100%. And so we want to do something to show you our love and show you our appreciation for everything for all you've been a part of this youth group, and for just allowing us to be a part of your lives. Like we want to honor you for something that is you'll never forget in your life. And so please, 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 we got something cooking for you that's super dope. But I need you to reach out to me because I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. I just found out today that there's a student that I thought was a junior is actually a senior, and I'm like, oh man, like thank God I know now before everything was finished, and I'm not like, oh dude, I didn't know. So please, please, please reach out to me so I don't miss you. I'm finding out day by day that like it's so incredibly difficult to remember everybody's grades. Like I'm already bad with names. To remember grades too, it's so much. And so please, please, please reach out to me. Be like, hey, you told me to reach out. I'm a senior. Just want to let you know. But that's it, guys. I love y'all. I cannot wait to see y'all the next time we hop on. Please stay active in the small groups. Make sure you're being a part of that. Love you guys so much, and I'll see y'all next time.